session. We have a very full session, so I'm not going to waste much time with introductions. The session is about standing on the shoulders of giants, applying TOC to an entire nation. There are a number of priorities for any nation: poverty, security, economic growth. This specific session is going to start off with talking about education. We'll have an introduction from Yuji-san. He'll hand over to Kathy. She'll talk a little bit about TOC for education. And Tobi-san will show us some results of how you can practically apply, each of us, immediately, TOC for education insights. I'll hand over to Yuji-san. Thank you.
おはようございます。おはようございます。Okay. Here, I have a dream. No. Reality is I have frustration. The economy and economy of unaffected nation can be considered a system. And the question I have is system Japan efficient? I don't think so. Lots of political things and bureaucracies. Only in Japan, probably. But I'm so frustrated. Also, I have a question. Can we make Japan better in 20 years? That is what I'm thinking. Some of the woodies we have. The income is not going up, and domestic manufacturing is falling. Also, too much national debt. Medical care system about bankrupt. Sounds familiar. No. Only in Japan. Only in Japan, probably. We are facing serious problem. Presence of Japan is world is decreasing. Also, there has been continuous deflation. Actually, we conducted, the Goldat Consulting people has some kind of workshop internally to conduct as system Japan, to conduct the TP. It was kind of interesting. We pick up 3 woodies. Too much nation debt is actually debating increase the tax and decrease tax. Which do you like better? Sustainable finance and increase national income and increase tax. In order to secure the stable finance, we must update economies, decrease tax. Another woody is domestic manufacturing failing. That do not invest money, invest money. That kind of thing. Cost down and develop high value product. Those kind of things it's now Japan is facing. And also, medical care system is about to bankrupt. The cloud we have is actually, make it possible to let everybody take appropriate medical care. Then we need maintain current medical system care. In order to do that, increase burden on the current patient and doctors. Increase their pricing. Also, maintain the accessibility to Medicare. Do not increase the burden for the current patient and doctors. Core problem is very interesting. Take action using money or take action without using money means in a government system, making budget is their role. So actually, from the beginning, they have started already paradigm to spend money. So actually, using knowledge, something they don't think. And what to change is take action using money, and what to change is take action without using money. And how to cause change. And what we found is 2 powerful injections. Is teach TOCfE for the children, and also put TOC success story into the public domain. Also incorporate TOC TP training or like TOC thinking clearly capability in the government people. I assume government people also have a frustration. And when we created this injection, what we found is immediate predicted effect is more corporate management will think, more government staff will think, and everybody performs through the ability to think effectively. And key assumption we assumed is 3. Most of government and the business people are parents of children. Am I right? Yes. Teaching the best way to learn. It's true. and 4 years old will be 24 years old in 20 years. So common sense. Adult can take a TOCfE workshop. It's very simple, easy, educational knowledge. Adult can learn how to think and how to teach how to think. And adult can get motivated, teach how to think. Adult can teach other adult. And more interested to create it, back to this one. Also, learning to deep by teaching. This is really, because by teaching, you really deepen your knowledge. Also, adult can teach their children, because children education is #1 priority of the parent, at least in Japan. So they are really motivated, and children can how to think. By teaching the children, parent ability to thinking clearly get better. Then make Japan better by creating critical mass. The key assumption is still, most of the government and business people are parents to children. Teaching is the best way to learn. 4 years old kid will be 24 in 20 years. Hey, Cassie.
Yes, I'm going to use this and this.
Okay.
My name is Kathy, and I'm president of TOC for Education. So why TOC for Education to teach adults? Let's look at some insight as revealed by some of our history. The evolution of the learning curve in education. I took a Jonah and a Jonas-Jonah course from AGI in the early 90s. And in 1994, I found myself teaching a Jonah program for my peers. I was a middle school teacher teaching world cultures. When I did this, a 9-day course with the old black book, for those of you who remember it, it was difficult for them. Many of the teachers came up with the conclusion that the core problem for them in the classroom was that learning is not relevant to the student. But that's in any classroom many times, sometimes for adults. I was also at the same time teaching the Jonah program, the 5 thinking processes, to a 7th grade class. They called themselves Jonah wannabes. And it was going really well. I was kind of integrating it with my world cultures curriculum. And they thought it was such a good way of learning that they really wanted to spread it to other schools. They even wrote trees on it. At the same time, it was kind of in the middle of the school year to the next school year, we started as an injection of their way of spreading it, kind of a problem-solving club after school. We didn't call it Jonah, but it was kids love to solve problems. You know, they're always talking about it. So I was doing the clouds with them. And something I thought about later, it's relevant kind of into why it works so well, is that I noticed that we were doing clouds, kids were doing internal clouds without any formal instruction. I had a little portable classroom with 80 kids coming in, more and more and more, coming to the club. And they were from 3 grade levels, from all different kinds of backgrounds, very diverse skill level and knowledge base and cultural. So it was a very diverse group learning a tool without any formal instruction, just seeing examples and sharing. As I said, my Jonah students, my Jonah wannabes, wanted to spread this to other schools, and Ellie wanted that to happen too. As he became involved with knowing more about it, they brought their formal Jonah conference to Fort Walton Beach, Florida, so that my kids could give a presentation. And the kids sent him a tree to convince him to have lunch with them. And there they are. So in 1995, as Ellie could see how effective this was, these tools with kids, and had developed a new program for application of TOC to human behavior called Management Skills Workshop. It was sort of based on It's Not Luck. He launched TOC for Education with me as the sole person doing everything. One of the first countries I actually went to outside of the U.S. was South Africa. And I wrote the people that were setting it up, and I said, would you go in and ask the teacher what is their biggest problem? They have some of them have 80 kids in a classroom. from all different kinds of backgrounds, and they were giving me the same udi that everyone else was giving me. How do you teach to such diverse kids within one classroom? So universal core UDI, really, that I was hearing from teachers everywhere, is to meet the learning needs of very diverse students. We call it differentiated instruction. It would be the same really in here if we look at everybody's background, correct? As I continued to go around and try to spread this using this one 5-day program, I was getting some pushback from educators because it was a business, although it had some personal applications to it, a lot of the language in the training was business-oriented, and they felt it wasn't relevant. They also felt it was a bit labor-intensive. It was a very intense course to learn 5 things in 6 days. And constantly in education you hear, well, is it research-based? So, and it wasn't. So one of the first things we did was Rami Goldratt and I created a TOCfE version of the management skill workshop. We called it TACT, Thinking and Communication Tools. At that time, it was still 5 days, teaching the cloud negative branch, the day-to-day cloud negative branch, chronic cloud, a transition tree, and our version of a prerequisite tree. When we created this one to application for kids, it became more counseling focused to enable children to take responsibility. That was a big seller, though. Would you agree that that's kind of important?
Even adult, yes.
Yep. But what it led to a lot of polished interventions that we gave for people who had, what we were getting to our classes were more counselors, parents, social workers, these kinds of things, people who needed to intervene because children don't learn to think to start with. And so we developed wonderful applications even into the juvenile justice system, for at-risk kids, children with special needs, etc. But we weren't impacting mainstream teachers. So since then, in addition to getting some research done with PhDs and this master's degrees, etc., we also began to focus on developing materials for teachers. I wrote a story to teach all three of the tools, the cloud, the branch, and the ambitious target tree. And it's animated, and it's called The Story of Yanni's Goal. Did that one. And then for the last 4 years of my life have been in writing writing materials so that teachers could teach their existing content as with the TOC as a methodology, so that they would not have to teach it as a separate subject, because that's very problematic for teachers. I don't have time to teach life skills. Their parents are supposed to do that. I have to teach things that I am measured by with state tests, etc. So that was really a problem for us. So I spent 4 years, and it's now, I picked it up Friday at the printers. We've had different versions of it over the last several years, and I put them into one book right now and tested it in many cultures so that we can teach a subject matter and use TOC as a learning method, as a teaching methodology. And we've had it translated now. It's almost into the 4th language. Japan's been done, and we're working on Dutch right now. So what are some working assumptions on this as a learning process? The Socratic nature of the tools innately create relevance that we talked about earlier, because it's problem solving. All kids like to problem solve, and it engages students' prior knowledge. That it can be delivered through applications that work for large and diverse groups. Because one of the things that when we first started, they were teaching small groups of this. Teachers have to teach 40, 50 kids, in some countries more. It's got to be, you can't, if we're going to ask them to go teach it, we have to be able to model it. So we have to be able to do the same thing that we're asking them to do in their classroom. It can be written to meet stated generic learning objectives and outcomes that are really applicable to all learners, all ages, all levels. These learning objectives meet the state required standards, etc., that we can go and market this to education system because it's professionally based according to the kinds of learning objectives that they must follow. and upon which their teachers are measured. And it's written in measurable language, our standards, our learning objectives, measurable language, and in a way that reduces mental multitasking in a class. This is just my working assumptions that I think have been validated through the workbook, through testing it. Most of all, it can demonstrate that the tools deliver content that is relevant, fixing what the teachers perceive to be a core problem, and addresses the major UDI. It differentiates instruction to diverse learners and is transferable to other authentic situations. In other words, what I learn here, I can apply. All right, I'm not going to read this, but I just want to show you that we have, in addition to saying we're going to deliver certain standards or certain learning outcomes, specific ones for teachers, we also have criteria to measure to evaluate the methodology we're going to use. I put this in here knowing that I was not going to have enough time to read it, but it's here for your reference. I do want to talk about the most important criteria, and that is keep it simple. Is the method simple enough to be used by children of all ages and abilities? Does the method focus on what's most important, main ideas, etc., and help, most of all, to eliminate complicated and confusing information, to get the noise out? Definition, what do we mean by simple, unadored, free from complexity? So what we try to do is to teach in fundamental and incremental learning steps, little steps in the workbook, so that people aren't trying to too much mental multitasking and absorb too much at once. Let's learn a step and practice it, and then build on that. And we're teaching 3 tools in this workbook: the cloud, a logic branch, and the ambitious target tool. Which, for those of you who know, it's a version of prerequisite tree, because kids can't say prerequisite very well. So we wanted the same tool for teachers and children. So we let the students' thinking evolve as we go through. And then we focus on learning objectives, not sophisticated applications. Learning cause and effect, for example, not an application to do something particularly with it, other than using it through the curriculum. To try to eliminate the non-essential. And when I was writing this, I loved the transition tree, Rami's version of transition tree, for those who know it, one of the thinking processes. Because to me, it builds action plans that enable you. I get this effect, I don't have to do anything else. That was big for me, who knew me from early on. They could give you 12 examples that I thought were just fabulous. If one does it, stop. That helps a lot in saving time in a classroom. Okay. To eliminate the non-essential, to prevent mental multitasking information overload. Negative branch. Will something that appears too simple not be relevant to more sophisticated learners? So I'm going to give you an example of how I think you can do this really simply and fast. Doing something like the cloud and assumptions and everything brings huge ahas. Can we do it even faster? Okay, I'm teaching 144 or 150 Filipino teachers in a 2-day workshop testing my logic branch model. And I have a version of the categories of legitimate reservations in my workbook. I did it with my Jonah wannabes. We called them manners for polite discussion, and I only used 4. In this case, I'm sharing with them entity existence reservation. And there are 2 classifications. One is like, is it too abstract, or one is it too general? So we were just doing some simple examples. I gave them an example, and I said, this is too general. People always let me down. How many times do we think that? I've done that many times. Like, nobody's doing what I ask them to do, so I'll just do it myself. I will be the martyr. If people always let me down, then I have to do everything by myself. And I have gotten into that role many times. So I said I'm showing this as an example to my Filipino teachers. People sometimes let me down, or even some people let me down. And if I think of it that way, then I will need to be more careful when delegating tasks. Gave them a few examples like this. I asked them to do some of their own. First example that comes up to the overhead was this one. This was about 6 months before their last election. Teacher comes up and says, politicians are corrupt. Okay, we're putting you in the remedial class. I'm coming back in August, and I'll remediate you. If politicians are corrupt, she said, then I'm not going to vote in the next election. And that had been her decision, truly. How many times do we just really do this in our mind? We just generalize and stereotype. Now she writes, well, if some politicians are corrupt, then I need to choose wisely. And I've decided, mindset change, I have decided to vote. And there were many others, some on marriage that I won't, you'll have to ask me afterward. Some about men, actually. All right. We like to say in TOCfE, for education, that the TOC tools are simple enough to be used by kindergartners, drawn with pictures, and profound enough to be used by CEOs, such as those who attended our session with the simple presentation of the 3 tools to a group from Japan.
Okay, so let me remind, we wanted to make country better in 20 years, and we decided to introduce TOC for education to all the educators, not only the teachers, businessmen, fathers, mothers, government, etc. And we had a workshop last year in Tokyo. So Japan is the 22nd country that introduced TOC for education, and the participants are very, very wide in variety, industry, business executives, and from IT societies, academias, like especially from universities, and kindergarten, and doctors, and bookstore owner, and PTA, this is Association for the Education, and also TOC expert. So we got 140 people, and at the very end of the certification program, we had a ceremony to give the certification, and they are the people who helped facilitation, and many of them are in this room. So the result, after the workshop, we got many, many testimonies by word and by video, which I'm going to be showing some of them. So my solution makes more sense than it did before. My personality has also changed. It's surprising, right?
How long was this workshop?
4 days.
Wow.
I found that my kid thinks more logically than I thought. I will use the tools and the materials to train all the company staff. Our textbook was about the education used in the school, but he generalized it, and he actually found the value. He can use it in the company staff training, including the freshman to the company to high-class manager, everybody all together in the same room. Become able to find obstacles and to handle them proactively. And so useful, it's a culture shock. So we got such a testimonies. And some initial result. So Kyoto University professor, for whom who don't know about the Kyoto University, this is the best university, which has the greatest number of Nobel Prize winners in Japan. So vice chairman of the MBA program committee decided to incorporate this body of knowledge at the basis of their MBA course. And he agreed to lead TOCfE in Japan community as a head. And 5 companies, not only one, ordered this textbook to train the company staff. And the local community, this is the voluntary community, in Tokyo and in Osaka, conduct monthly study sessions. So we have been, both groups have been doing the study meeting for 10 times for now.
5 companies consist of all of the big companies, multi-billion kind of companies.
And we have a very large and active Facebook page. And if you go like Google today and put the TOCfE as the searching word, this is the #1. And some other result. So 3 years in the company, the young lady use the crowd to analyze and present the problem in her own company, and he got the award. And this is the kid, 3.5 years old kid, and 5 years old kid, and I read the book for them, and they summarized in a different level. These younger guys, less letters and more pictures, and older 5 years old has more letters. But we can use the same material and the same question to teach the different level of children. And also being able to apply to people with significant development disability. So the applicability is very wide, yes.
Can we answer that later? You're at 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, we'll be back for the panel section if you can hold questions, please.
So I want to share 2 of the testimony videos with you. So the first one is from a middle manager of a company. So this is our homepage.
The public domain.
会社の中でよくお前の言ってることわからないって言われませんか？私しょっちゅう言われてて、もうちょっと論理的にものを喋れればみんなが理解できるって言われてて、その時に今回の TOC の FE っていうのでクラウドっていうのを学びました。これすっごくわかりやすくて整理しやすくて自分がちゃんと論理的に説明できるんですね。これはね本当に使えます。多分カルチャーショック受けます。ぜひ一回クラウドに接してみてください。
So after he gave me this testimony, escape, okay, he succeeded to get the budget from his boss. And another guy I'm introducing, he's a high school student, and I personally did the home tutoring for him for 6 weeks, sorry. And he got a 4 out of 100 in the math score, and after 6 weeks, he got to the 39, which is the class average.
もともと堀越幸喜という人間的には、土台をきっちり固めて物事をある段階から次の段階へと根拠づけている方だと思っていたんですけれども、今回、飛田さんという方に家庭教師という形ですけど、関わっていった時に、クラウドブランチというツールを教えていただいて、そういうものを使うと考え方の土台を今まで以上に固くすることができたっていうことに関してすごくありがたみを持っております。今までは自己流で根拠づけて考えてきたんですけれども、それ以上にしっかり物事に向き合ったりとか、考えられるようになったっていうのはすごく今の自分としても素晴らしいことだと思ってます。TOCFE という存在が、正直全く知らなかったんですけれども、家庭教師という形で飛田さんと、関わらせていただいて、この考え方を知って、今まで以上にそういうものを使い慣れていって、もっと自分の中でいい生活とかいい人間的に成長できたらいいなと思いました。
Yuji, this is out of time. Share what you just received in the mail this morning.
What I found is actually this knowledge is developed by teachers, but for teachers. But I found it is very effective in learning by teaching. And methodology is effective in the school, also in families and workplace. They answer the question like why I can invite 140 is actually using my connection in a book as a book authors. But I intended school teachers is a primary target. But this kind of knowledge is really, these are educators also. So actually, I get so many attention. Actually, I invited only 50 people. But I got more than 150. So I have to really stop the request to be there. And in such a variety of people, including company executive, with word of mouth, it's spreading out and can reach the people like a Sony executive. Sony is founding Sony Education Foundation. They invite me to introduce TOCFE. Well, 2 weeks ago. Then all attendees, a key leader of every region of Japan, like around 20 people. 20 teachers all over Japan, and they really like it. And they already, somehow yesterday, they sent everybody sent me messages, but they already brought us tangible result. I was so surprised to see that. And also, I was so surprised again, and I get also this kind of activity to get the Ministry of Education attention. I was requested to make a presentation there one time. Okay, one time only 1 hour, like that. But everyone like it. Would you come again? Then I did a more massive opening there, and including Director General of Ministry of Education. It's such a guy. Invite me a dinner, and hey, this is really need for me. Improving our organization. Then I conducted also another workshop in the Ministry of Education inside. And they really find that this is the solution to make it Japan better. So it's going to be huge. I think that's it. Thank you very much.